Hare Krishna. Good morning and afternoon to some of you. India Heritage Foundation extends a very warm welcome to every one of you for today's session on the Bhagavad Gita. Let us begin by invoking blessings of Srila Prabhupada and uh, the previous acharyas, Nitai Gauranga, and their lordships. Let me begin by offering the pranama mantras.
चलेगी तब तक नहीं जाओगी बैठ जाओ
नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांता स्वामी नित्य नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी गोपी जना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपी जना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तेरा मन चारी यमुना तेरा मन चारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तेरा वनचारी यमुना तेरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
सारे तीन को पकड़ सकते हैं,
Hare
हम लेते सकते
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Krishna Chandra, Radha Krishna Chandra Radhe. Jai Radha Krishna Chandra, Radha Krishna Chandra Radhe. Jai Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Vrindavan Dham. Jai Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jai Vrindavan Dham. Jai Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Jai Gaura Nitai, Jai Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Jai Gaura Nitai, Jai Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jaya Gurudev, Prabhupada, Gurudev, Prabhupada. हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय, हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय, ग्रंथकार श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि। Continuing from where we stopped, from the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, here I'm sharing the script for a few. Please join me as we read the verse, synonyms, translation, and purport by His Divine Grace. His Bhaktivedanta Swami. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 2, entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized, verse number 19. य एनं वेत्ति हन्तारं यश्चैनं मन्यते तम् उभौ तौ न विजानीतो नायं हन्ति न हन्यते य एनं वेत्ति हन्तारं यश्चैनं मन्यते हतम् उभौ तौ न विजानीतो नायं हन्ति न हन्यते य एनं वेत्ति हन्तारं यश्चैनं मन्यते हतम् उभौ तौ न विजानीतो नायं हन्ति न हन्यते. Anybody would like to try?
May I try, Prabhuji?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Ye enam veti hantaram yasye chenah manyate hatam upoto na vijatito nayam hanti na hanyate.
Thank you.
Shall I try, Prabhuji?
Yes, please.
Yaenam vetti hantaram yaschenam manyate hatam ubhoto na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to try?
Shall I
I'll try, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji, please.
Ya enam veti hantaram, yaschainam manyate hatam, ubhaute na vijanito, nayam hanti na hanyate.
Thank you, Mataji. Synonyms. Yaha, anyone. Enam, this. Vetti, knows. Hantaram, the killer. Yaha, anyone. Cha, also. Enam, this. Manyate, things. Hatam, killed. Ubhav, both of them. Tau, they. Na, never. Vijanitaha, in knowledge. Na, never. Ayam, this. Hanti, kills. Na, nor. Hanyate, be killed. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. He who thinks that the living entity is a slayer or that he is slain does not understand. One who is in knowledge knows that the self slays not nor is slain. Please repeat. He who thinks that the living entity is a slayer or that he is slain does not understand. One who is in knowledge knows that the self slays not nor is slain. Purport. When an embodied living entity is hurt by fatal weapons, it is to be known that the living entity within the body is not killed. The spirit soul is so small that it is impossible to kill him by any material weapon, as is evident from the previous verse. Nor is the living entity killable because of his spiritual constitution. What is killed or is supposed to be killed is the body only. This, however, does not at all encourage killing of the body. The Vedic injunction is Mahimsyat Sarva Bhutani. Never commit violence to anyone. Nor does understanding that the living entity is not killed encourage animal slaughter. Killing the body of anyone without authority is abominable and is punishable by the law of the state as well as by the law of the Lord. Arjuna, however, is being engaged in killing for the principle of religion and not whimsically. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta Bhakta. मम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. This is sometime back in 1973 in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, Hare Krishna Center. There was this devotee by name Shrutakirti Prabhu. So Shrutakirti Prabhu was the personal attendant of Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was working in his room on a desk, and he would have a bell, and anytime he would require any assistance, so he would just ring that bell, and the assistant, the devotee who's attending to Prabhupada, so he would just come in and he would ask Prabhupada if there was something that he could assist with. So, so this was one day when Shrutakirti Prabhu was. Different devotees have actually served as Prabhupada's servant in different places, and Shrutakirti Prabhu has happened to be Srila Prabhupada's personal servant for many years, And this is from one of his recollections, which he also narrates in his biography, wherein he talks about his interactions with Srila Prabhupada. So there he mentions that one day he heard the bell ring, and as soon as he heard the bell ring, so he opens the door, he comes inside, and then he bows down and offers his obeisances. This is the etiquette as when we approach a senior devotee or the spiritual master, we bow down and offer our obeisances to them. So he bowed down and offered his obeisances, and then he asked, Prabhupada, you called me. So, and at that time, Prabhupada was looking with great concern, and he pointed to the floor near where Shrutakirti Prabhu was sitting, and he said, do you see there? And he said, there's this, and he was saying this with so much of love and so much of compassion. And he was saying, can you see there is a small bug there, a bug, and this bug seems to be hungry. So please bring a prasadam flower. You pick him up and then leave him on some plants in the garden so that he may find some nourishment. He seems to be weak. And that was it. So very obediently, Shrutakirti Prabhu, he went back, he brought a prasadam flower, he picked that bug, one insignificant bug that was lying. In fact, he had to strain, soon after Prabhupada spoke, he had to strain to find where is this bug. And he saw there was a small insect on the carpet. And then immediately went and brought a prasadam flower, lifted him up, took him outside, and left him in the garden. And after that, they never talked about this bug. But then Shrutakirti Prabhu happens to remember that Prabhupada did not think that it was a waste of his time to try to address and care for some insect, some insignificant insect after all. And 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 he shares that personally he was so touched by this that whenever he would see an insect, he would be reminded of this interaction, that how Prabhupada was so caring, even for the most insignificant, and was always thinking of their welfare. So another occasion, this was in New Jersey, and this interaction with Prabhupada is recalled by Prabhupada's disciple by name Govinda Dasi. So Govinda Mataji, so she was one of the very early disciples who came in touch with Prabhupada. I think in the 1968 or so, quite early. And Prabhupada was at that time recovering from a stroke, and he was in New Jersey. And she was present along with her husband, Gaur Sundar Prabhu. And they were assisting Prabhupada in his recovery and were attending to all his needs. So at that time, they were, Prabhupada was once sitting in the garden, and then so Govinda Mataji and few others were also there. They were having a wonderful association with Prabhupada. And at that time, Mataji came across one slug, which looks like a snail without a shell. Just so she just said, "Ooh." She was quite, when she saw that slug, she said, "Oh, look at that." She pointed out to that. And then Prabhupada heard her say this, and then Prabhupada looked at that slug. And then with a great concern and compassion, Prabhupada said to Govinda Mataji that, please chant for that poor creature. So Prabhupada said that to her, and she immediately knelt down and went close to that slug, and she was chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And she remembers chanting for quite some time for the slug. She was chanting Hare Krishna. And then she recalls this interaction with Prabhupada, and she recalls that Prabhupada was very concerned and very compassionate, even for insignificant insects, bugs, and he never felt that it was something that was a useless activity to care for them. And this Mataji, she ever since this interaction, she says, even now I continue to chant for slugs and bugs and insects. I continue to chant for them. So the expression was that we are human beings. We have the opportunity to chant and hear God's names, but they are insects, plants. They cannot. So although they cannot chant, but they can hear. The soul can hear. So when you chant, they get benefited. So when we chant for the slug or for the tree, they are hearing. The soul in that body is able to hear the holy name, and they will be benefited. So she always remembered this, and she said she continues to do that. Then whenever she gets time to do that. So we can see from these little exchanges from the life of Srila Prabhupada, how the pure devotees, they exemplify these qualities of compassion, mercy towards all living entities. It is said one of the qualities of a sadhu is titikshava. Who is a sadhu? Titikshava, karunika, suhurdaha, sarvadehina, ajata shatravaha, sadavaha, shanta, sadhu bhushana. So these are all different. Sadhu bhushana, these are the ornaments of a devotee. As we are making advancement in our Krishna consciousness, we should see that these qualities are developing in us. What are these qualities? Titikshava. A sadhu is very tolerant. He's very tolerant. He forgives even the worst offenders. He forgives. Happily, he forgives. He doesn't keep anything to his heart. Karunika. Karunika means is very merciful. Is very compassionate. And Suhurdaha Sarvadehina. He's the best friend of all living. He's the best friend. He has best wishes even for his worst enemy. Suhurdaha Sarvadehina. Ajata Shatrava. He doesn't consider anybody as his enemy. Ajata Shatrava. Shanta. That means he's very sober, very peaceful, self-controlled, not agitated by his senses and his mind, hankering, lamenting. No. Shanta, very peaceful. Shanta Sadhava. Sadhava means he abides by instructions of the Shastras. He abides by the instructions of the Acharyas. He will never go against. He will never go against the instructions of the Shastra or the Acharyas. Sadhu Bhushana. These are some of the ornaments of a sadhu. So we can see Prabhupada through these instances that we just recalled, he's manifesting the qualities of compassion, of being the friend and well-wisher of all living beings. And these qualities are exemplified by the teachings of all scriptures. All of them, they all extol these qualities. Like, for example, in the Bible, it is said, "Thou shalt not kill." This is one of the commandments, and Jesus Christ, he endorsed this commandment. So we also see Lord Buddha, his teaching was ahimsa paramo dharma. One should be compassionate towards all living beings. He could not tolerate that animals were being slaughtered in the name of the Vedic scriptures that some people were taking advantage of. So he was very, so that was the main teaching of Lord Buddha. So like that we see all great personalities, they exemplify. Unfortunately, although the great teachers, their teachings and their life, they exemplify these values, it may not be the same with their followers. There is I came across I came across one a nun. She was a Christian nun, and so in my interaction, I understood what is their understanding of soul and why they meet. And so she was, of course, amongst them also there are so many different sects and so many different schools of understanding. So many of them. But majority of them, they have this understanding, and that is that other than human beings, plants and animals, they don't have a soul. So they're all created by God for human beings' consumption, and one can eat them, no harm. So this is the kind of understanding. And very conveniently, they have changed to substantiate. They have changed their to substantiate their meat eating. They have changed the original instruction, "Thou shalt not kill," to "Thou shalt not murder." Because when it's I have personally seen one Bible says "Thou shalt not kill," and one other version says "Thou shalt not murder." And the reason this change is made is because if you say kill, it is a very generic terminology which can apply to any living being. But when you use the word murder, murder is only applicable to killing of human beings, only human beings. So, to accommodate their meat eating, they have conveniently changed the Bible. They have changed the scripture so that they can justify things. God is only saying that you should not kill uh, human beings, but other living beings you can kill. This is the understanding. Many times uh, we come across, uh, there are many, whenever Prabhupada would be traveling, would come across, the disciples would bring some important guests to come and meet Prabhupada. Many times they would be priests, bishops, and cardinals who would come and they would exchange their thoughts. And invariably, the discussion would be on this point because this is considered to be one of the uh, pillar of sinful activity, meat eating. And if we haven't given up this, if we cannot appreciate that this is a sinful activity, we haven't even begun our spiritual journey. So Prabhupada would always bring the discussion to this point that uh, the followers, first of all, they killed their spiritual master, Jesus Christ, crucified him. And then 2000 years have passed, and still they don't bother to follow his instructions. Basic command, "Thou shalt not kill." And they're continuing with their business of killing and hoping that all their sinful activities will be taken, uh, can be handed over to Jesus Christ, and he will suffer for their sinful activities. And we can go on sinning. We can go every weekend and we can go and confess and once again start our business of eating, doing sinful activities. And Jesus will take all the reactions and he will suffer for us. And we will go back. So Prabhupada was very unhappy with this kind of misinterpretation, and the leaders uh, of the church not guiding people properly on this basic tenets which exemplify compassion, mercy. So these are all things that we have to be very careful about. It is not a fact that animals don't have soul. We have discussed in the previous verses. The symptom of the soul is consciousness. Just as we are conscious of our pains and pleasures, the animal is also conscious. Animals also have feelings. When an animal is separated from their young ones, they are in so much anxiety. They come to defend. They respond to our love. They respond to our uh, care. So these all things are everybody can, even a child can appreciate this. So it is. Just seeing some notification. So further to the understanding in the purport we are reading that just because it is being stated by Lord Krishna that the soul is imperishable and cannot be killed, one cannot take side of the argument that anyway soul does not die. No. So what is wrong? I can kill. I'm not killing the soul. I'm only killing the body. Body is temporary. So what? No, you cannot. So that is why Prabhupada is quoting the purport. The Vedic injunction is Mahimsyat Sarva Bhutani. One cannot commit violence on any living entity unless it is authorized. Unless it is authorized. Otherwise, it amounts to, there will be reaction. Whether it is killing an animal or killing a human being, there will be reaction. If we sow the seed of pain in any living being's life, we will have to reap that in our life, either in this life or next life. We'll have to reap that pain. So, the on the statement of authority, it is interesting that even in we have even our regular our mainstream experience. If a soldier on the order of the government, if he goes to battle and kills the enemy, he will be rewarded for killing. He will be given medals, honoring his wonderful service to the nation. On the other hand, the same soldier, he comes back home because he is trained, he has got weapons. He cannot kill a civilian at home. If he does that, then he will be court-martialed. He will be punished. The same soldier, he is killing, for one killing, he is rewarded, for another killing, he is punished. Yes, because when you are killing your enemy, the enemy is of the country, that is authorized by the government. But this killing is not authorized, therefore will be punished. So like that, Prabhupada is giving is explaining that Arjuna is also being asked to kill, but because it is on the order of the Supreme Lord, this killing is not something whimsical. It is on the principles of dharma. Therefore, it is authorized. But if somebody is killing for whimsical purposes, just to satisfy their tongue, killing animals or killing human beings, oh, that is very grievous. Very grievous, and there will be severe sinful reactions for that. So these are some thoughts, some reflections on this wonderful point being conveyed by Prabhupada, that although the spirit soul may be, not maybe, it is imperishable, but it does not encourage that. This understanding does not encourage that one can indulge uh, in killing the body on the background that anyway we are not killing the soul, it's only the body. No, it has to be for dharmic purposes. It has to be authorized only then, otherwise not. And there are many examples of this, of how for an action that was performed in ignorance in the life, for example, this was in the case of Manduka Muni. In his childhood, when he was his children are ignorant, they do not know what the consequences of their action. He was playing with an ant, and with a needle he pricked the ant. So he was punished much later when he was a very renowned Muni. He was given a very grievous punishment. He was about to be executed by the king. And so he was very disturbed. He was thinking, I have lived a life of austerity and piety all my life. Why am I being punished? He went and asked Yamaraj. And Yamaraj said, in your childhood, you had caused harm to an ant by poking it. Therefore, you had to undergo this. So these activities are like this. There are so many instances wherein we can recall how we have to be very careful in our dealings with other living entities, even insignificant living entities like insects and
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Radha Srivasadi Gaur Bhakti. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So that was 108 times chanting. If anybody has any questions or any comments, we can discuss before we close.
Hare Krishna,
Can I?
Prabhuji. I too.
Yes, Dr. Yashwant, you had something to please.
Yes, but yes, is it okay? There is gentleman also want to talk, say something, but
Yeah, and I can also see
okay.
Indu Mataji also has something to share. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we can go
Okay.
in sequence.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Just of course, today's discussion about not to harm any insect or any human person or anybody, of course, but just this is just for the discussion. People, they do, of course, we do know like the suicide, we call it, and in Hindi we call like atma hatya, not the sharir hatya. Now, this is just for discussion. Of course, people can do suicide or atma hatya several reasons. Majority, sometimes they are not mentally stable, or sometimes might be they are suffering very, very severe terminal illness, giving lots of pain. And of course, it is debatable nowadays, of course, that right or wrong, but just for discussion. And then if the self-harm or suicide is considered a sin, we call atmahatya. As far as my understanding goes, Ram, Lakshman, Satrughna, Bharat, everybody, they took samadhi in Saryu river. Like not Krishna was killed, but all Bhagwan four, they took samadhi. That is like a suicide. Or similarly, like Parvati Mata, as we know, that when she was Daksha daughter, and she could not tolerate husband's insult in that yagna, and she created fire and she burnt herself. And similarly, lastly, the Sita Mata also went into the land, in the Dharti. I mean, I'm just for discussion, what is the, like about, when we say that suicide is like atmahatya, person has to go through 7 times, 7 times in different janma. We don't know whether person is doing first time, third time, fourth time, or last time. So just if you please throw some light on some of this problem. Thank you.
Yeah. So the instance of Lord Rama with his brothers and all the citizens of Ayodhya entering into Sarayu River and going back to Godhead, that is actually, it wasn't suicide, it was liberation. All of them, they wound up and they went back to Godhead. They went back to the spiritual world along with Lord Ramachandra. And likewise, these are pastimes of Lakshmi as Sita Devi is entering into the earth. So, and likewise, in the heavenly planets, as for Mother Parvati, she gave up her body, which was given to her by her father, Daksha Prajapati. So, so these are not exactly relatable to what we see in the current society as people killing themselves by popping a pill or hanging themselves, or nowadays there is also some countries are also legalizing euthanasia. They can willingly through various means they end their life. In fact, I think one of the sessions also we talked about this one man. It was a big controversy in India. One man, elderly man, was asking the government that he wants to end his life. There's no more purpose for his living. He doesn't see any point in living anymore. And more he lives, he'll have to suffer only more. And there is nobody to support him. So he thinks now that I'm in somewhat good health, better die right now than suffer terminal illness, suffer so many things. So the the understanding is that whatever whatever duration of life that one is destined to live, during that time, one has to endeavor to develop the whole purpose why this human birth is given is in the first place to develop God consciousness. So till the time that you have an opportunity to be in a human body, one should try to execute the mission of human life. One should try to execute the mission of. So abruptly, if somebody ends their own existence in the body due to whatever difficulties they're going through, then the soul is it has to undergo a lot of it amounts to a sinful activity, and it amounts and as a result of that, the jiva has to in the next birth, it may or it may not get a gross body, because for the jiva to fulfill any material desires, it requires the sense organs. It requires a gross body to fulfill the desires. And when it is in a position when somebody is bereft of an opportunity to have a material body, they exist as ghosts, they exist in their subtle body. So the and that's a state of a great suffering for the jiva, because the jiva doesn't get an opportunity to fulfill, and which is why they these ghosts they try to enter into the body of other other living entities and try to utilize their body to fulfill their desires. So somebody who is spiritually weak, the ghosts can enter their bodies, and it is just like there is an owner in the house and the owner is made captive and somebody else comes inside the house and takes control of the house. So like that, these ghostly beings are very desperate and anxious to fulfill their desires through. So the long and short of it is that engaging in committing suicide is it amounts to in the spiritual journey of the living, it causes a greater suffering in the eternal journey. The soul has to undergo its material existence in lower species, or it may not be even awarded a gross body for a certain duration of time till it is cleansed of that reaction. So these are all the consequences of somebody taking away their own life, as they call it, as Atmahatya. And when one is undergoing a situation which is very, very difficult to tolerate, very painful, it may be a great loss or some big setback somebody is going through. The understanding is that this is for somebody who is who's able to see things as they are, that these things are all unfolding as a matter of my own past karmas, which is coming in this form, this way. I'm undergoing some painful experience because of something some sinful activities of what I've done in the past. So I tolerate these experiences to the best ability that I can. And while I pray to the Lord to give me the strength to endure these difficult times. I pray to the Lord to give me the strength to endure. We take help, all kinds of professional help and friends, family to deal with these setbacks. At the same time, we depend on the Lord and we engage in whatever. And during these times, we uh, take shelter of the Lord's instructions and try to purify our existence to the best possible capacity that we have. And if this way, if somebody is able to live his life, then there is uh, an opportunity for the soul to progressively, uh, to whatever extent the soul has been able to develop, has been able to awaken its Krishna consciousness. It will continue in its next life from that point. But if the soul indulges in sinful activities, and so the whole progress becomes delayed. It is not lost. Even if I have, say, made 5% progress in this life and have engaged in a lot of sinful activities, one has to face the consequence of the sinful activities. But that 5% that we progress, that will remain. But the only thing is for us to continue from that 5% onwards. It will, because of all the sinful activities we have performed, it will take some time. So, which is why we are careful that we don't indulge. Taking away one's life is considered to be a sinful activity because the body is given to us by the Lord for a particular purpose. What is that purpose? The purpose is to awaken our dormant Krishna consciousness. And if we, which is why these words, these contrasting words are very important to note. A person who does not utilize the opportunity of this precious, valuable human body for developing Krishna consciousness, he is called as a kripana. Kripana means a miser. The body has, there are so many bodies, 84 lakh species of living entities. And in different, say in the body of a dog or a body of a pig or a cat or a tree, it is not possible to awaken one's Krishna consciousness. The privilege and the opportunity for developing Krishna consciousness is fully developed in a human body. So when I have this opportunity in this human body to awaken Krishna consciousness, God consciousness, to awaken my loving relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna, and if I don't utilize that opportunity and while it away in sense enjoyment, while it away in sense gratification, then such a person is called as a miser, a kripana. If I have so much wealth, I should be utilizing that wealth to maximize my enjoyment, invest more, build more, and make progress, rather than burying that money inside and then just take satisfaction in looking at it. You don't utilize the money that you have for your own enjoyment. You're a miser, conjuice. That is the word, kripana. But the opposite of that is a brahmana. Brahmana means he's very liberal, very broad-minded. He knows perfectly well, this is a perfect opportunity for me to develop my love for Krishna, and he takes full advantage. So a person who doesn't understand the whole purpose of why he has been given this body and foolishly brings an end to his body, that is going against the laws of nature, for which they have to undergo punishment. So which is why it is condemned. And this is not to be compared with the same act, the same act as the Lord departing to the spiritual abode. Different devotees going back to the spiritual abode. They are actually, that is a that is a scene of liberation. Tukaram went in his body to back to Godhead, Sant Tukaram, and Lord Ramachandra going back to Godhead, giving up the bodies in the river Sarayu along with all the family members and citizens of Ayodhya. That is not suicide. That is not the same thing. That is perfect. They have perfected their lives by being the subject of Lord Ramachandra, by engaging in the devotion service of Ramachandra. They were blessed to go back to God and along with him. When he wound up his person, they all went back to God. So that was perfection of their human mission. And on the contrary, these activities are not the same.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Indu Mataji, you had some.
Yeah, I can understand why the doctor asked that. But we call the Atma Jyoti, when Atma Jyoti becomes part of Paramatma Jyoti, and you want to willingly leave this body, material body. Miraji did that. Mira merged into Krishna. So there is a lot of example like that. What I was asking about, you said titiksha, tolerance, and you said about all this bhushan means alankar of the sadhus.
Yeah.
You're talking about that. You said shanta means the peace, and then you used another word, which was did you say Ajat Shatru or something?
Ajata Shatru, yes, Ajata Shatru. Ajata Shatravaha. A devotee a sadhu has got no enemies. He does not consider anybody to be his enemy.
Right. Yeah, because in Veda it's a mitra se chakshusa samikshamahe. Look at everyone with a friendly eye. They do try and teach that in Vedas. But even if you practice all this, what really hurt me was in Maharashtra, they killed these two sadhu, and one of the sadhu was smiling. It's all over television, everything. And you think that even when you're practicing something and you're becoming a proper sadhu, there are people who can kill you.
Yeah, the history is full of such examples of saintly people being harassed and prosecuted. There are so many examples. Jesus Christ was crucified. What was his mistake? He's a great devotee. He's an acharya. We accept him as an acharya. What was his mistake? His mistake was he was teaching people how to love God, and they couldn't tolerate that. They crucified for no fault of his. So, time and time again, there are so many examples of so many people, devotees, who are harassed for no fault of theirs. But that does not.
Is it to do with their past karmas?
Actually, because they are uh, uh, because they are fully, uh, especially in the case of somebody who is surrendered to the Supreme Lord, the Lord takes full responsibility of a devotee's reactions. And when they are undergoing such experiences, wherein devotees are being harassed, devotees are being prosecuted, and uh, even in our Hare Krishna movement, so many instances, especially in the early days of the movement, the devotees would go out in the streets to perform Sankirtan, and the police would arrest them, put them in jail, and they would be, and this would keep going on. Their only fault is that they were doing Kirtan on the street, and that was complained, and they would be put behind bars. In fact, they were in the communist countries. Uh, there were devotees who were tortured very severely, and there are these books written called "Salted Bread," where devotees in the Soviet Union they recall how in the early days when they were trying to establish the Hare Krishna movement and the centers, how they were being prosecuted, the KGB, and they would be arrested, and how they would be harassed in with drugs, and one devotee was tortured to death. So all these things, I mean, it's very sad to see the way in which sometimes devotees undergo these experiences. But then we know, as far as uh, uh, the Lord, uh, uh, Krishna makes these statements. He says that Name Bhakta Pranashyati, my devotee never perishes. Krishna is saying, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Isyami Master. I offer all protection. The moment you surrender unto me, uh, I free you from all sinful reactions. So, recently also we saw in Bangladesh there were riots wherein these people, they barged into the temples, especially the Hare Krishna center there, and they assaulted devotees. They killed two devotees to death. They actually assaulted them, and this was all over the world. There was a reaction to this kind of a how the minorities were being treated in Bangladesh. There was protest. So, uh, uh, as when we come across such instances, we can tend to feel that where was Lord? Lord is saying that He will protect His devotees, and these devotees are getting harassed. And they have, what is their mistake? They have dedicated their life for propagating His message, His holy name, and they have not uh, these uh, these people. So many people who are envious, and they have unnecessarily, completely, it's their mistake and their fault, and they have done all these things, and these devotees lost their life. So we may tend to think that where is Lord's protection? How these devotees could be let down like this? This is how we can tend to think. But actually, the fact is that for uh, for somebody who has engaged in, uh, uh, we know for sure that these experiences which they're going through, these are uh, uh, these are uh, experiences wherein the devotee is actually getting purged of all his existing uh, reactions. And for such a person who has given his life for the cause of the Lord, he will uh, he will go back to the Lord's abode. So in Krishna's calculation, he must be. These are different ways. See, by this you can actually appreciate how we may think in an ordinary way, and what may be Lord's plan for that devotee. Lord must be thinking, instead of you struggling through they are being asked and they have been murdered, or externally appears like that. That is a fact materially, but from the spiritual perspective, for that jiva, that body, Krishna is uh, accelerating his progress so that he can quickly get all his sinful reactions burnt, and instead of waiting for any longer, immediately come to me, come to my spiritual abode, come and enjoy with me, be with me, engage in my services. So Krishna may have many plans for that particular jiva, so that he can quickly deliver that jiva from this bondage of material existence. And
It, it,
yeah,
it's just that I don't know, maybe I'm soft-hearted. I feel compassion, and sometimes it hurts to see human beings being so cruel to another human being.
yes. No, by all means, we must protest. It is just because uh, there may be some transcendental arrangement between the Lord and the devotee, and there may be a spiritual perspective to it, and as on that platform, it is Krishna's protection still exists, and there is no doubt about that. But materially, we must protest. if there is such a kind of treatment being meted out, which is very inhuman, which is so cruel, we must
Yeah.
protest and lodge like, show our solidarity with such devotees who are going through this experience. Definitely, this is. But for I was talking from the point of the devotee's experience. Now, from the point of the person who perpetrated this activity of violence, he will have to suffer he will have to suffer very badly,
Yeah.
because not only is performing such activities towards ordinary living beings punishable, but if you try to cause harm to somebody who is spiritually advanced, who is very
Yeah.
dear to the Lord, then the offense becomes magnified many times. That is why one has to be very careful when we are dealing with sadhus, because these people have devoted their life for the Lord's service. They're very dear to the Lord. So, if one causes any harm to such a devotee, then the reactions will be very severe, will be magnified. So, one has to be extremely careful. So, such people who have chosen to become instruments of causing harm to such uh, faultless sadhus, uh, their future is, they may get away from the laws of the land. They may think they may have their own arrangement with the government and get away and all of that. But from the laws of God, they will have to suffer very severe punishment. Very severe punishment. That is for sure. Does that help, Mataji?
Yeah, that was helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna Prabhu.
yeah. Isha, yes.
Dhanyavad.
I would like to know about your views about sati system.
Uh, yeah, we'll come to that, Ashish. I think Isha was waiting before you. I would ask him to go before. Yeah. If you can
Thank you, Prabhuji.
kindly wait, please, Ashish. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, I do have 3 to 4 questions here. So
Yeah, maybe
my
you can
first
start
question
with
is,
one question and then we can come back.
okay,
Yeah.
fine, not a problem. Yeah. See, maybe intentionally or unintentionally, or knowingly or unknowingly, we might have killed a lot of insects, bugs, or
Yeah.
the microorganisms while we walk, while we sleep, or while
Yeah.
we sit, or whatever. So, like, I
Yeah.
mean, you gave an example of the Mandu Kamani, who is a great sage. I mean, he
Yeah.
had to undergo a punishment because of being ignorant and harming an insect or whatever. So, right. So, like, we are like material bodies, and we are not realized souls as such, but do we have to undergo more severe punishment than the Manduk Mani experienced?
See, the whole point is, now as we are begun the journey of this sadhana bhakti of Krishna consciousness, so all the reactions which we have accumulated since many lifetimes, we don't know what all sinful activities we have done. Even in this lifetime, we can know what all we have memory of what we have done. And what about the past lifetime? We do not know. So all of those huge stock of reactions, what we are all carrying with us, and for which we are solely responsible, we have to. The Lord shows His kindness minimizing, by minimizing, and to the extent that we surrender to Krishna, to the extent that we completely accept and obediently carry out His instructions, which we receive through the spiritual master. To that extent, Krishna takes the charge of cleansing the devotee of these reactions. So, even so, a devotee's consciousness, when he's undergoing some painful experience, say there are some relationship issues, say we had some financial loss, there may be so many setbacks which can be very painful, health issues. So, a devotee thinks that. And this is very important. This is very important that we culture our consciousness in this way. That a devotee thinks that now, because, say, suppose you had a fracture, a devotee thinks now, because I have started this journey of chanting Hare Krishna mantra, hearing Bhagavad, hearing Bhagavad Gita from devotees, and rendering seva to the Lord. Because I started this journey, my my reaction should have been much severe, has been minimized by the Lord, and He has very kindly given me only a fraction. Had it not been for my service to Krishna, which I have just started, had it not been for this journey that I have started, I should have suffered much more severe. I should have probably had a fall on my head and had a hemorrhage and gone into coma and suffered much more severe. But Krishna has been so kind, he has given me a very token reaction, small percentage he has given. So if you maintain this attitude, so a devotee voluntarily accepts and endures all the different sufferings that may come his way. One should not think that now I'm becoming devotee of Krishna, so I will not have any more suffering. No, that is not the right approach towards our journey in Krishna consciousness. A devotee accepts. He thinks I should have suffered much more because I have been such a sinful soul. So it is good for me. In fact, just because I'm doing some little seva, Krishna is being so kind, he has minimized it. So he remains grateful despite all these challenges. Somebody who doesn't have this conception will think, oh, what is this? I'm chanting Hare Krishna and see what Krishna has done to me. He's giving me so much of suffering. Oh, this is all nonsense. I will give up Hare Krishna. This is not the right approach. This is not the right approach.
But Prabhuji, in case of Manduka Mani's thing, like, did God reduce his sufferings?
So, in case of Manduka Mani, he was he was about to be punished, and then he was spared. He was about to be punished. They were supposed to lance him with a spear through his rectum, and the spear was supposed to come out of his head. That is called I forget what this kind of punishment. This is basically killing to death this person. And the moment his soldiers were about to do this kind of a punishment, uh, the king came to know that what is going on. Such a great sage, and why are my people giving such a punishment? And immediately came and stopped. And then the sage was thinking, why was I supposed to go through this experience? And so that's how he went. So he was spared at that point in time. But the principle is, even if a devotee is undergoing such experiences, he thinks I am fully accountable. It is he does not have any grudge on the Lord that the Lord is not protecting me, the Lord is not taking care of me. No, he thinks I am suffering the result of my activities. It is very good. I am fully responsible. Let me suffer. Actually, I should be suffering much more. But Krishna and Prabhupada, they are so kind. They have just given me a token reaction. So I accept it. A devotee fully accepts whatever situation the Lord has put him in, he accepts. Yadricha labha santushtaha. Whatever comes my way, I am fully satisfied. I have no bickering, I have no lamentation, no hankering. This is what is due for me. I accept it and I am satisfied. And I remain grateful that Krishna has minimized my whatever was due for me has been minimized. So this approach, if we maintain, then very soon, because by maintaining this approach, you continue your faith and your devotion services to the Lord, and you are getting more and more purified as you develop more and more faith, more and more surrender. One point in time, very soon, one will be completely cleansed of all our reactions, and then that is the point when we start developing more and more attachment to the Lord, develop love for Lord. That's called prema bhakti. We are now in sadhana bhakti. We will make progress. We will develop firm conviction, nishtha, and then after ruchi, asakti, bhava, prema. These are all the different stages that a sadhaka will undergo. So as we get more and more cleansed of our reactions, we experience this higher states of consciousness. And when we reach the stage of prema, when we reach the stage of love of God, then one does not have to enter once again into another body. Krishna will release that jiva from bondage of the cycle of birth and death, and he will be given an opportunity to come and personally associate with him in the spiritual world. So we have to be patient. It may happen in this life, it may happen after many lives. That's up to the Lord. I simply have to be sincere and I have to be serious on this path. That should be all right.
That really helps, Prabhuji. I do have other two questions. I will wait
Yeah,
for
we'll come back.
others. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Was that Harsha Mataji? And Ashish, you also had a question.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhu, I'm not
Yes, ma'am.
trying to contradict your wording or anything, but what I understood is that about the Mandukrishi, that Mandukrishi did kill the ant when he was a child, and in his child Bal Sahaj Pravritti, he had done that. And I think that it just says that it just shows the both sides, that the sage's great power of penance and attaining moksha when he goes to Yamraja, and Yamraja, he also says to Yamraja that because I did that pravritti when I was a Bal Sahaj, I was not aware about my thing. That is why you are punishing me for not rightly. You know what I'm saying? The righteous dharma activity wasn't there. That's what I'm not trying to contradict your thing, but I'm just saying that, I think at that time the Mandukrishi said that anything happens at the Bal Sahaj when under 12 or under 10, when the child does some activity unknowingly, innocently, that crime doesn't get counted.
No, actually, this is the pastime of Manduka Muni is explained by the acharyas, that to drive the point that whether we perform something knowingly or unknowingly, the reaction will be there. It may be lesser or greater based on whether it is done intentionally or unintentionally, but the reaction will be there. Which means the acharyas give the example, just like there is fire. Fire will not make a discrimination. If a child unknowingly puts the finger in the fire will think, oh, this child doesn't know that fire will burn, so let me not burn this child. No, whether you know or you don't know, you put your hand in the fire, it will burn. So it is likewise, it is mentioned that ignorance is no excuse. Ignorance is, I cannot say, I don't know that such a law exists. So why are you punishing me? This was the same argument given by Brigari. Narada went to him and asked him, why are you killing animals half dead? This hunter was taking pleasure in killing the animals half dead. He was not killing them full dead. He would throw an animal, kill one rabbit, kill one deer, and see them wriggle with pain, and they will bleed. And then Narad Muni was like, if you want to kill them, why don't you kill them in one shot? Why are you allowing them to suffer so much and then die? You are accumulating so much sinful activity. Don't you know that? Why are you doing like this? So he said, I do not know that. My father was doing this, so I'm also doing the same thing. My father taught me how to hunt, and he was doing like this, so I'm also doing it. I also enjoy, like my father. And then it is explained, because he did not know doesn't mean that he becomes, ignorance is no excuse. Just like if I come to go to America, I'm driving on the road. If I say, see, in the UK, I'm used to driving on the right side. In your country, it is driving on the left side. So I'm sorry that this accident happened, but actually, I did not know about it. They will not accept this argument. You have to know. That is your business. You have to know. Ignorance is no excuse. You are in this country, you have to know the law of the land. So these are examples given by which it is so. The point is that we have to be very, very careful. We cannot take shelter of this statement that I do not know. Mrigari said the same thing. He's a hunter. I do not know. My father told me. Narad Muni said, you will have to suffer so much for these activities. He did not know that he was actually doing it. He had no intention that he has to suffer in the future. His father told him to kill like this. I am also killing this. So that is the right understanding on whether one is aware or not aware. We have to be very, very careful of our actions.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, Ashish.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I want to ask about like what are your views about sati system?
Yeah, it is a very very unfortunate a social evil, which originally the whole purpose was that the woman, because she would be so much attached to her husband, she could not tolerate living life separate from him, and the it was for her to live in separation of her husband was more painful uh, in than death itself. So she would voluntarily enter into the fire of her husband if he were to die before. It was all voluntary. But later on, they started forcing women to enter into the fire, and that is not acceptable. That is completely nonsense. It was a very uh, one of the many practices which deteriorated due to the influence of Kali Yuga, just like the caste system. Like this, so many things got deteriorated, and so it was good that it was abolished in the interest of the safety of women. So that is the right understanding. Nobody should be forced to give up their life. That was the sati system. So we see in the case of Pandu Maharaj, when he left his body, when he died, both of them, both Madri and Kunti, they were feeling so much separation from Pandu. Both of them wanted to enter the fire and end their body. But then they knew they have children to take care. There are five, there are small children. Somebody has to raise them. Somebody has to take responsibility. So therefore, they consulted uh, they consulted the rishis and with their guidance, and then that's how she voluntarily accepted, and she stayed back. Kunti stayed back, although she also was feeling so much because they loved their husband. They were so much attached to their husband. She was also feeling very much bereaved. But because of these higher duties that they had to perform towards their children, she remained. She stayed back. And she took care of Madri's children, her own children, Sahadeva. So, like there are so many examples in the Vedic scriptures, but this cannot be forced. This cannot be forced on somebody. Then it becomes a violence. So that. Okay, last question with Isha.
Yeah, Prabhuji, the other questions that I had was the first one is, though we are vegetarians, I mean, we have to eat vegetables, fruits, and plants for our survival or existence.
Yeah.
How do we escape from? How do we get rid of the sinful reactions from that? That is my first question. And then the second question is, in some of the religions, they claim that killing the animal in the name of God and offering it to the god and eating it would not create any sinful reaction. I don't know how far that is true or correct. And then the third question that I have is, like, if you go back to the times of Ramayana or Mahabharata, I mean, are we saying like people were not killing the animals in those times? Say, like, if you take the example of Pandavas, who are the core followers of Krishna, were they not killing the animals though they were Kshatriyas?
Good question. So, in short, we as devotees of Krishna do not say that if you eat plants, then you have no reactions. No, you will have reactions even if you kill plants and if you eat plants. What we say is, if you offer, everybody has a prescribed food and it has to be eaten in a prescribed way. The tiger will not come and eat your grains and your paddy and your wheat. The tiger has got its own prescribed food. Uh, the cow has got its prescribed food. In nature, all living entities have the prescribed food. So likewise, we have a prescribed food. What is that? These are ingredients which are sattvic and which include fruits, grains, nuts, milk. These are all food which is patram, pushpam, phalam, toyam, which is prescribed for human beings. And they have to be accepted in a prescribed way, which is by offering. We do Naivedya. We first offer it to Krishna and then we accept Krishna Prasad. If you eat Krishna Prasad, then you are free from all reactions. But if you eat, even if it is vegetarian food, but if it is not offered to Krishna, still you will get karmic reactions. So that is to be kept in mind. So long we accept the prescribed food in the prescribed way, then you remain free from all reactions. Otherwise, still you are bound. Still you will have reactions. So that is one part of it. And the other part of the different religions, they have this offering of meat, which is there even in the Vedas, offering of meat. That is a provision given for people who are very addicted to eat meat, to discourage them from eating meat. They are told, okay, you want to eat meat, fine, you can eat meat, but you have to follow certain rules and regulations. So if you follow those rules and regulations, then you can accept meat. Like it is said, you can accept meat once in a month during the time of Amavasya as an offering to Goddess Kali. And the person who is purchasing the meat, he has to see the animal being killed. He has to see how the goat is being slaughtered and how it is wriggling in pain. There's blood over all of the place. So if he's seeing this again and again, he will think, for just for satisfying my tongue, should I see so much misery, so much of pain, shouting, blood? And eventually he will come to his good senses. He will say, no, I don't want to eat this anymore. He'll stop. So the whole purpose of giving some concession for eating meat, it is meant to gradually discourage that person. Just like somebody is alcoholic, he is addicted to drinking alcohol. You cannot, if you are a doctor and somebody who is treating him, they will not say as a part of the treatment, tomorrow onwards, no more drinking. No, that will not work with him. His body has got so much addicted, he will have withdrawal symptoms. You have to allow him to have alcohol and slowly taper it. He's used to drinking one bottle. Then you should say, okay, you can take a little lesser. And then after that, after 1 month, make it even more lesser, then lesser. Slowly taper it down. Suddenly, if you say, he will not agree. He cannot also. So to help people slowly give up attachment to meat, some concessions are given. That is not to be seen as it is encouraging them to eat meat. That is the understanding. Further with respect to why it is allowed in the scripture. Ultimately, yes, one has to become free from all these tendencies. These are all sinful activities. There are 4. Yatra dharma chaturvida. What are those? It is there in the Bhagavatam. This is not some somebody's invention. These 4 pillars of sinful activity. This is everybody, all of you should know this. It is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Dyutam panam striya shuna. Yatra dharmas chaturvidha. This is the Bhagavatam reference. What is this Dyutam? Dyutam means gambling. Panam means intoxication. Striya means illicit sex. And Shuna means meat eating. Yatra adharma chaturvidha. 4 kinds of these are sinful activities. Dyutam panam striya shuna yatra dharmas chaturvidha. This is from the Bhagavatam. So this is the whole principle. And your last question was about Pandavas. So the Kshatriyas, they have a duty to maintain. They would go to the forest because there are many saintly people who are executing penances in the forest, who have their ashramas in the forest. And so there are many wild animals which can disturb their tapasya. So the Kshatriyas have a duty to go and hunt these ferocious animals and keep the forest peaceful for enabling these sadhus devotional practices. So they would go to the forest, and also it gives them an opportunity to develop their martial spirit. The Kshatriya would go and he will challenge a lion and he will fight with the lion, and he will so like that they would, by going on hunting, they're developing their martial spirit, they're bringing relief to these sadhus who are living in the forest, and that way those animals which were killed, they would be offered as sacrifice. So that was the duty of the Kshatriyas for for the benefit of these things. So these were the dynamics that used to exist. Does that help?
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. That answers all
Yes,
the
so
questions. Thank you.
yes, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll look forward to meeting all of you next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Dhanyavad.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.